have the newspaper in one hand and the Bible in the other, so that we know what both sides are up to. Okay? We need to be able to figure out, how do I look at all these things through a biblical lens? Let me give you just one example. This is from the October 2nd edition of USA Today. Here, the main kind of debate in the opinion page is the democracy protests in Hong Kong. Democracy versus communism. There are some major worldview ideas battling in that, okay? We talked about, can atheist politicians be elected? We talked about Ebola. Here's an article on campus sexual assault. Will the yes means yes law foster safer behavior? It says California State enacted a law this week that changes the standard for determining whether a case involved consensual sex or assault on college campuses. Okay? They're having to deal with this because there's so much sexual promiscuity and sexual assault on university campuses across our nation today. There are underlying ideas associated with that. Here is an article on pot and what's happening in Colorado. Okay? If you're a pothead, that's paradise on earth. Right? But if you're not, if you're an average citizen in Colorado or anywhere else, there are legitimate implications. I've seen all kinds of articles coming out of Colorado. I honestly have yet to see one that was positive. I mean, I saw an article about pet owners, right? Who are getting worried because their dog went and ate a bunch of pot leaves and they're staggering around, you know? Like, something's wrong with my dog. Yes, absolutely something's wrong with your dog, right? We laugh. But pot's coming. It's coming. What do we have to say about that as citizens, as Hoosiers, as Christians? It's coming. Okay? And I'm not up here to tee off on homosexuals or potheads or whoever. I am here to say that we have some very significant differences of perspective on how we should approach these issues and why. And unfortunately, as I said earlier, our culture has moved away from, and to our detriment, has moved away from the ability to have civil disagreement on issues. You spend any time on the internet, you spend any time on Facebook or on any of these comment boards, right? I do a lot of writing. I write columns, I write all kinds of stuff. I don't read the comment boards typically, right? Because it's like, I don't need to hear all that. But you get on there, you stick with it long enough, and it just descends into name-calling chaos at best. We have lost the art of debate. We've lost the art of thinking. We've lost the art of civil engagement to our detriment. And so what we end up doing, instead of saying, hey, you might have some legitimate disagreement with me and I have some legitimate disagreement with you, let's figure out if there's any mutual common ground. It's, let's strap on the boxing gloves and see who's standing when it's all said and done. And We've engaged in what we call intellectual pugilism.
We always lose.
Beat each other down.
We always lose because they pull out that bigot card. I mean, always. As soon as you speak truth and love, you are nothing but a hater and a bigot.
Okay, you say we always lose because they pull out certain trump cards that call us haters and bigots and whatever.
And then they shut the door. I mean, at that point, they've plugged their ears and they're not going to listen.
Here's my counter to that. To a certain degree, I think you're correct. To a further degree, I think it's because there aren't enough of us who have been equipped to be able to figure out how we respond to the I'm a Hoosier, not a bigot message. You're right? There's all kinds of questions we could and should be asking. But we haven't created the forums, number one, to be able to have those conversations. Where's the best way to impact long term? Build meaningful relationships with people who hold views that are different than yours. And sit over the lunch table at work every week or every day, or talk on the phone or write back and forth, and hash this stuff out. How many of you do that? We don't typically do that. Why? I'm projecting here. It's hard and we don't know how. Like once we get into the hard stuff, all of a sudden it's like, oh, whoa, Good question. I'll see you later, Fred. Right? Like, I'm out of here. Yeah, gotta go. Bathroom's calling, you know. We don't know how to do it. We can know how to do it. It just takes time, it takes effort, it takes commitment. And the thing that drives me in all this, my mission in life is to equip Christians to go out and change the world. I spend a lot of time with skeptics and non-Christians. That's part of my broader ministry field. But my primary mission is to equip Christians to say, this can be done. It takes a lot of work. Okay? Let me give you a quick example. During this gay marriage debate, I had the opportunity to do some TV interviews. So Kevin Rader came down to the house where we were staying temporarily before we got our new home. My wife was absolutely mortified because the camera came in there and they're showing around our kitchen table, and I'm sitting at the table eating lunch with my daughter Emma, and they're getting kind of the B-roll of us, just average husband, father, you know, eating at the table. Well, in the background were literally stacks of newspapers this high. Okay? We had people from Grace Church in Mooresville that moved us from where we had been staying to this temporary location, and they're going, why are we moving all these newspapers, you know? I still have them. I've moved them to our new house. My wife is going to kill me. And don't light a match. This thing, it's an inferno waiting to happen. Here's why. Because this stuff, conversations as we get on the internet and dialogue with people, or as we process things on Facebook, as that thing's trolling down through there, right? We've got to be able to do this. And it starts with understanding what is a worldview, why does it matter, okay? Now, we've had such a great discussion this morning that we've run out of time, but I want to leave you with this fundamental idea. This fundamental idea, and then you can go into the handout and you can put it in kind of a broader context. How we think shapes what we believe, and what we believe determines how we live. How we think shapes what we believe, and what we believe determines how we live. Normally, if we had more time, we'd unpack this as a group, but let me summarize it for you. The way you think about something determines then what you believe about it. And that determines then how you live accordingly. So if I walk out to the parking lot, I climb in my car, I stick this little thing called a key in this little hole called the ignition, and I turn it this way, it starts because that's been part of my experience. And I think it will start. In fact, I don't even really think about it. The only time I think about it is if it doesn't start, which in my case is typically more often than not. Like, great, you know, here we go. This is a crane life, always driving clunkers. How we think about that shapes what we believe. If I stick the key in, it will turn, the car will start, then I can kick it and drive and we go. That determines how I live. It's when that system breaks down that all of a sudden I really have to consciously think about it. That's just a car driving down the road. It's the exact same thing about everything that we think about. And here's the reality. We've been kind of talking about in the context of Christian worldview. Everybody has a worldview. Everybody has a worldview. The chart that you should have received this morning, okay? On the one side has kind of major worldview categories. This is just for your benefit. I put this together as kind of a resource. The other side answers what we call primary questions, right? Our origin, where did we come from? Our what's wrong with the world, the problems in the world, our solution, what's our salvation? Okay, we say salvation is through Christ. What's then our purpose? And our destiny, where are we going? Okay? So where do we come from? Where are we going? We don't always think about this consciously all the time, but that drives a lot of these other decisions. Okay? If, for example, at the end of the day, I don't actually believe that God exists, I mean, truly don't believe God exists, and I live accordingly because how I think about it shapes what I believe about God or the absence of God, and then that determines how I live, that changes the ball game. That absolutely changes the ball game. Okay? We're going to start there next week. Because next week we're going to be talking about how we navigate through this whole cultural. We've kind of seen a variety of examples of this, and there are many, many more issues that it's difficult for us to know exactly how do we deal with this. So next week we're going to start right there. We're going to pick up on this concept of God or not God, and then transition into truth and the idea of absolutes versus moral relativity. Okay? So please, plan to be there. We still have some space for folks, and if we need to, we'll keep adding chairs and find places for people to sit. Okay? If this is valuable to you, if this is valuable to people that you're having these conversations with, or people you need to be having these conversations with, then by all means invite them to come and be a part of it. Okay? Anybody have any questions or final comments? All right, let me just close in a word of prayer and we'll be dismissed. Lord, again, we thank you for this day. I thank you for some very spirited and passionate discussion. I know that many of us feel strongly about a variety of issues. And so, Lord, I pray that you'll help us to think clearly, to think well. Help us to be thoughtfully engaged on these things. Go with us this week. Give us opportunities to interact with the people that need to have seeds of truth planted. And we ask all these things in your name. Amen. All right, thank you all very much. I appreciate it. If you